What's up, Hunley kids, and welcome back to another episode of Kicking It Back with Kate. So for today's episode, I decided I wanted to take a trip down nostalgia lane and watch some of my favorite childhood shows. Now, during this pandemic, it's kind of easy to want to go back to simpler times, and a way that we can really do that nowadays is with all these streaming services that we now have at our fingertips, basically. Like Disney Plus has so many of Disney Channel shows, and Netflix also has a bunch of deals with Nickelodeon, so a bunch of them are on there. So I decided to make a list of some of my favorites and rewatch them and see how they hold up today. So coming into number one, My Babysitter is a Vampire. I love that show so much, and it's so crazy because now I go on TikTok and I see all these people that are like, oh yeah, I love that show, I love that show, I love that show. No, because when I was a kid in elementary school and I said that My Babysitter is a Vampire was my favorite show, I would get made fun of. But that kind of makes sense because now that I have rewatched pretty much all of season 1, I still love it, and it's still so iconic. The theme song in particular is so good, and I think that influenced a lot of the music that I like today. The theme song is a little bit more pop punk than what Disney is used to making, and I think that kids who originally loved My Babysitter's a Vampire all had like a emo punk phase. And I think now that on TikTok, since being alt is like kind of becoming a new trend, now all of these people are suddenly like jumping on the hype train. But I think this show has so many awesome moments. Like there's one episode where all these kids are getting rickrolled and they literally hired an actor to recreate the music video. Like, that is iconic. But I don't think it would be my number one show. If anything, I think it would be like, out of the top 5 that I'm doing, I think it would probably be like 2 or 3. If you either have never watched My Babysitter's a Vampire, go see what you missed out on. Okay, so the show that I think would be second place on my list as a child would definitely be Girl Meets World. And I feel like I'm gonna get roasted. I feel like I'm gonna get attacked for this, but I really did love Girl Meets World, and I don't know why so many people have an issue with it. Like, what did Girl Meets World ever do to you? I think the reason that I love this show is because this came out when I was around 6th grade, and when I tell you that show is exactly what I needed, I mean, it's basically a show about a girl who is trying to become independent from her parents, is making friends and trying to figure out who she is with, like, by being original to herself. It just tackled so many issues that I think like the people who hate on it like clearly never really watched it, like maybe watched an episode or 2. I think if I had to rate this now, I would still place this as my number 1 show because I think this is a show that taught me a lot more lessons and that really shaped who I am as a person now. One of the episodes that I remember really stuck with me was when Riley was getting bullied. And I think also Disney taking a risk and having Maya be a character who is lower class or like lower middle class is something that they don't really do. So just having that representation in there and knowing that kids were seeing that side of people, you know, maybe you shouldn't judge it so harshly. Like, I know, you know, it's kind of hard for me to watch Sabrina Carpenter now in the context of today, but it's honestly still is such a great show, and I think it's very valuable. Okay, and the next show that I think I would have on my list as a kid would be Gravity Falls. And if I'm being honest, I think it would stay in the 3rd place position. So far, my current list is Girl Meets World, My Babysitter is a Vampire, and Gravity Falls. But what I really liked about this show is the fact that it was, you know, all about mysteries, and I guess you could see a trend that I kind of like supernatural stuff. I think this is really what sparked Gen Z's like love for conspiracy theories. Kids found out that there was like a secret message at the end of every episode, so they literally would make a key for these secret codes and like try to figure out what the codes were. So not only was the show just super interactive while watching it, it was also just really imaginative, and you could make your own theories while you were watching it. So it was just a really fun experience, and I think it really shaped some of the interests that I would have in the future. So yeah, I think that show would stay in that spot because it was honestly pretty iconic. The next show that I would have is iCarly, and I was kind of skeptical of putting it on this part because I don't know why I thought the show was a bit older than me, so I was like, am I even gonna remember like some of these episodes? But what I realized when I started watching is that as soon as the start of an episode begins, I somehow remember every single detail about the episode. And I have to say, I think this is the show that influenced Gen Z the most. Gen Z is a generation that grew up with not just the internet, but internet influencers. So I think it really made all of us Gen Zers believe that we could one day be like a streamer or an influencer and all that stuff, because I mean, I definitely did. I definitely had that dream because it just made it seem so possible, you know? A lot of the humor that we have now is like also in this show, which again, I think it really influenced the humor that Gen Z has, like just people doing random things, saying random things, like things that shouldn't be funny but are. And while I do have to say there were some innuendos that I was like, you were showing this to kids? Really? It wasn't as bad as I thought. And the last one, which is definitely gonna stay the last one, is Victorious. Not that there's anything wrong with the show, at least not like blatantly in your face, but it just doesn't have much, like, not much in it. I think the main reason why I even liked Victorious when I was younger was because of all the music, but I do still like some of the characters. Honestly, the only reason I would even continue watching Victorious is for Jade, Beck, and Andre. When I was younger, I remember also really liking Kat, but now that I'm older, I kind of just feel bad for her. Like, not even Kat the character, but Ariana Grande, like, I feel bad that they made her do all of those things. Victorious is definitely the show that I found has the most innuendos and the most questionable jokes, and also the fact that there's so much kissing. I feel like a lot of the older shows, people wouldn't kiss, or like if they would kiss, it was like something they would build up to. In Victorious, like literally in just the first 15 episodes, Tori kisses two people that have like a boyfriend, and it's okay. I mean, again, not a bad show. If anything, I would say rewatch it if you were a really big fan of the music, because that is like my favorite part, and like that karaoke episode is like, again, so iconic. So that concludes my rewatching of all my nostalgic childhood shows. And what I think I got out of this is the fact that what you watch and what you're into when you're younger really does have an impact on your life. And I can honestly say I can see why Gen Z is the way that we are. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, and it's just a lot of fun to go back and watch all of these shows, just remembering what life used to be like back then. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys should be getting your articles in the mail, so have a great day.